The earlier question talked about common sense, and I'm going to touch on it. It's also relevant.
I need a question, quite a brief question here.
Yes.
What's your question, please?
Yes. How is the plan going to work when there are so many different traditions, local issues? There are no two parties like Republican and Democrat like in America.
Okay.
At the moment, all we have is those who don't like Europe and those who like Europe.
Okay, this goes to the question about democracy, Peter Luff, and it's a very fair point. I mean, there is no such thing as an EU polity. The fact is, who's a left-winger and who's a right-winger? They're very different things in different European countries. How can any country with that vast difference of traditions and political systems ever be, any area with that vast difference of traditions and political systems ever be democratically ruled from the centre?
You've had, throughout the world, take India, there are vast different traditions, languages, political systems, but they have actually forged a very strong working federalism. And I think federalism is a word much misunderstood by this country, particularly as we exported it to other countries, and I think it can work. But could I bring up the question of parliamentary sovereignty?
I want to ask the other panel.
Can I just quickly answer, because I think your point's a very interesting one. But precisely the point about parliamentary sovereignty is we're not a country that goes for referendums, because Parliament is sovereign. And I think it's always been a way that people who don't like the decision of Parliament says, oh, let's put it to a referendum, which is a populist way of doing something. I'm not against all referenda, and there may be an argument one day for in or out. I'm not going to say that. I'm talking to the European movement now for my own personal thing. There may be an argument for in or out. But basically, Parliament is sovereign in this country.
Okay. Nigel Farage, can you muster any sympathy for David Cameron on this? I suspect not, but try and put yourself in his shoes. This referendum question.
The Conservative Party, and the leadership of it at least, are part of the political class in this country, and the political class in Britain and right across Europe are the people that most strongly support the European project. You're either in politics or you're a civil servant earning money from it, then you support it. Ordinary folk don't tend to.
I should just explain that David Cameron promised a referendum but has not delivered one. Sorry, Nigel, carry on.
The Tory party is strongly pro-EU, but it masquerades as being Eurosceptic, and most of its voters are strongly Eurosceptic. That's the truth of the position. I think the fact that Cameron has now turned his back on a referendum means that UKIP may well have a very major impact on the next general election, and we may well come out of that, despite how badly Labour are doing, with a hung Parliament.
How can they give us a referendum on something that's already going to be a fact when they come into power, if they come into power?
It would have been good if Cameron had actually explained that at the time, but he was busy writing in tabloid newspapers, I give you this cast-iron guarantee,
okay, but just explain
and he hasn't delivered.
Me, answer my question.
I think, look, you can have retrospective referendums in the sense that Harold Wilson called one in 1975 on something that a previous Conservative government had done. But the reality is, there isn't any point in looking at Lisbon on its own. I think what the British people need and deserve is a bigger, broader referendum, and unlike Ireland, a free and fair referendum where both sides get equal coverage, equal funding. And let's ask the British people, do you want to be part of political union, or would you rather have a simple free trade deal?
Christopher Booker,
or out?
Do you accept that... Give me one second, I'll put it to Christopher Booker. Do you accept that actually David Cameron could well be the most Eurosceptic leader any major country has had in the EU? Or is that a load of nonsense?
No. Can I just go back to the question in order to give you a roundabout answer?
Yeah.
Very good question, because it hit an absolutely one of the core points here, which is that we don't have in this European polity, the European Parliament and all the rest of it, there is no government and opposition, as there is in a good working democracy of the kind we have here and they had in the States. When I say we have here, I don't mean we have here, we had here. Because the trouble with this European issue is that it has very cleverly, and for all sorts of reasons, managed to unite the major parties into broadly a consensus. That's how, quotes, democracy works in Europe. Go to the Parliament there, it's the shape of a horseshoe. You don't have one lot sitting on one side, the other lot, the opposition on the other side. The idea is that you should have a consensus. And when you talk about David Cameron, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gilligan, being a Eurosceptic,
he certainly said more Eurosceptic things than many previous leaders of the Tory
party. I know you have been very busy in recent years, but I do wonder whether there are large parts of the newspapers that you haven't been reading. Because what Cameron has tried to do since he became... He said that famous phrase, we don't bang on about Europe in the Tory party. The whole point of what Cameron's been trying to do is to curry favour with Eurosceptics, try to win support from Nigel's natural constituency, by making occasional pseudo-Eurosceptic comments.
So you're saying it's
I mean,
all
he
fake.
never wanted a referendum.
Okay.
The last thing Cameron wanted was a referendum. It was a huge embarrassment. It would split his party.
Robert Evans, deal with this point.
I'm going to deal with the point there. You spoke, Christopher, about the European Parliament. I was a member of the European Parliament for 15 years, and I take pride in the fact that we do work on the basis of consensus and cooperation and coalition, drawing together the views of 20 people from 27 different countries and the regions within those countries, trying to find things on which we agree, the common ground. And you spoke about government and opposition. It's not about that. It's about trying to draw. Well, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's not a question of there is. It should. No, it's about drawing together.
You disagree with that.
I don't. What it's about. It's about 27 countries trying to find the ground on which they have common ground, and then they can go forward together to work on that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
You can't change your government.
Because it's an absurd idea that there could be a choice between a free trade or a Europe with the Lisbon Treaty. As though we're going to say to the other 26, oh, forget all you've achieved so far. We're going to argue for a free trade zone without any democratic input.
Our choice as a country, if we wanted to leave the European Union, it would be very easy to have a free trade deal with the European Union.
Not very easy at all.
Do you think
very straightforward.
Do you think you can leave a club and then just say, oh, by the way, we'll cherry pick. We still want to join some of your bits.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
No.
If you leave,
the Swiss and the Norwegians do that.
yes, but they've got to join. If
They
Britain was to
sell
leave-
us. But they sell us more than we sell them. Mercedes will not stop selling cars in Britain if we're not
But then
part
we
of the
have
European
those
Union.
same rules.
All right.
That's completely-
Let's bring the audience back in on this if we're talking about popular participation. Guy in the middle there. Yeah. You had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the disingenuous nature of the debate. There's lots of it's the creeping measures that are coming into what is this European Union.
Okay. Who's being disingenuous in your view?
Well,
all of them.
I think that I kind of believe that I'm a bit pro Europe, but I listened to Nigel Farage's argument, and I seem to agree more with him because I remember when we were going to have a referendum on the Constitution, and then it became a treaty, which seems to be the same thing as the Constitution. One of the arguments was that the changes that from Constitution to treaty is that there wasn't going to be a president, but now we are talking about a president of the European Union.
Then they told us, didn't they?
All right, so you're saying effectively that you do think that the EU's... What's your question? You think the EU's based on deception of some sort? Is that it?
Well, I think part of the argument is that we don't understand what's going on, and the reason why we don't understand it is because we keep hearing different things. I think we are being deceived a little bit about why things are.
Hold that question. I'm going to take somebody else and then ask you to reply to both. Man behind you also had a question. Yeah.
Looking at Europe, the wars it had, and now we have a climate change. And if you are talking about national boundaries and small problems, we won't be able to tackle climate change, which is going to happen very soon.
Okay. Nigel Farage, deal with that. There are frankly some issues that nations are too small to tackle on their own.
You know, we've talked about Yugoslavia a moment ago. Yugoslavia was about taking small nations
I don't want to
and putting them into a big nation.
We have
and it didn't.
We have a foreign policy question coming right up next. Let's talk about climate change.
Yugoslavia is at the heart of this because what we're doing is effectively what happened with Yugoslavia. We're forcing people together into a new state without asking them their opinion. Look,
it's not a state.
Take climate change, and we can debate. I mean, you think it's a huge threat and it's going to happen very quickly. There are many that don't think that's the case.
Not many.
But well, yes. actually, in terms of science, it's growing. There is a debate, but look.
And in terms of opinion polls,
this is not a debate about climate change.
But if we want to cut CO2 emissions, right? If we want to do that, we can only do that on a global level. If we want some proper rules in our financial markets, because we're worried that one or two things have gone wrong,